folks, welcome in. Seven Rivers Racing, KQE GTV. I'm Dan Deicher, coming off yet another exciting weekend of racing, both at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway and at the Crosse Speedway, where points battles are just all over the place. And a lot of these championships at both racetracks are going to come down to the final weekend of racing, which will be Oktoberfest race weekend, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th at La Crosse. And Mississippi Thunder Speedway, their Fall Fest has been moved back a week this year. It is October 10th and 11th, so you're going to be able to watch two different weekends full of racing at two different tracks, pretty much within about 45 minutes of each other. As we do every show, we start things off with a recap of the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway, and it was 100 laps of feature racing this past weekend as the late models had 220 lappers. The Mid-American Stock Car Series also had 220 lappers. The Sportsman had a 20-lapper, and the Thunder Stocks were on the action track quarter mile for 15 laps. So to feature race number one we go. And, well, of course, some things have really gotten strange this year. Nice car count again. 24 cars came out. And in this one here, Mike Carlson just found his way around after an early flat tire by Matt Henderson. Matt Henderson, 2 weeks in a row now, having a shot at winning some features. He gets mixed up with Kenneke a couple of weeks ago, cuts down the tower this past week, and you see Mike Carlson just blazing away at yet another race win. Wasn't the easiest thing to do, though, as he had some cars that were trailing in behind him, and we thought maybe it was a handful of laps left. Well, somebody could have challenged Carlson, but you see Greg Oliver out there poised to throw down the checkers on the speedway, and Mike Carlson out of West Salem takes feature race number one. He was followed by Brad Powell, Jeremy Wagner, Mike Kenneke, and Harley Jankowski. Now, that was a very important finish for Brad Powell because of a crash in that race that took Steve Carlson out of the race, and Carlson having to jump into a backup car for feature race number two. Powell finds himself in the thick of the points chase. We're going to show you that wreck here in a couple of moments. Next up, it was feature race number two. We started with 24 in the first one, 20 in the second one, and the great night of racing continued for Brad Powell and, I should say, Harley Jankowski. Now, in feature race number one, in that wreck that took out Steve Carlson and Ty Majeski, Majeski found his way back into this race as Steve Carlson had to borrow Todd Korish's 32 to get the points, and that made this one a little bit more interesting. Of course, Todd Korish retiring last Saturday after 19 years of racing. Congratulations, Todd, and good luck to you in your future endeavors. You're definitely going to be missed at the racetrack. Brad Powell ends up way to the race. Ty Majeski took second. Harley Jankowski a third. Brandenburg fourth. And Jeremy Wagner a fifth. So a couple of neat things right here. Jeremy Wagner, two of his best finishes he's had back-to-back since I've been at that speedway. A third and fifth place finish for him on the night. Harley Jankowski finishes with a fifth and a third place finish, and Brad Powell a second and a first. Now, that's going to knock things up atop the point standings. A couple of weeks ago, you would have thought Steve Carlson was going to run away with back-to-back track championships. Heading into this weekend's races, Brad Powell is only 19 points behind the 66 of Steve Carlson. Mid-American Stock Car Series made a stop at the La Crosse Speedway. Normally, you don't see these drivers until Oktoberfest. And for some of them, well, they've been here before, like feature race number one winner Rick Corso. He's won a couple of titles at Oktoberfest at this track, and he was hands down one of those to watch in feature race number one. Of course, he also started towards the front. He came out of McHenry, Illinois, and topped West Salem's Danny Gilster by about 3 car lengths, as you saw right there. And Eric Pierce ended up taking third. It was Jeff Holtz out of Franksville, Wisconsin, fourth. He was the point leader heading into the night. And Jeremy the Jet Spoonmar finishes in fifth place. As you see, the Mid-American Stock Car Series making that final time around the 5/8 mile. Nice set of cars. Had 20 in feature race number one and 18 in feature race number two. So race number one went to Rick Corso. We're going to show you why we were minus 2 cars here in a couple of moments as well. To the second feature we go. And Waukesha's Rick Tackman Jr. Been labeled the Cowboy. Good friend of mine for the past 4 or 5 years. Says he loves coming to this speedway. His home track is actually towards Indianapolis 500. and some of the big tracks there. You see he gets a nice run on Danny Gilster after having some early race problems. He was sliding all over the track. I'm not sure what it was that he was spewing on the racetrack, but he had some major problems and had to fend off Jeremy Spoonmore in this one here. This was a very important finish for Spoonmore as well. We'll tell you here in just a minute. But the Cowboy, but 6'6", Rick Tackman Jr. takes home the feature race win for the Mid-American Stock Cars. Now, the position that Jeremy Spoonmore did finish in both features ended up giving him the overall points championship. He had a 5th place finish in feature race number 1, and that 2nd place finish in feature race number 2 topped Holtz, so again, who was leading the points heading into the Mid-American Stock Car Series. So they're going to crown their overall champion coming up here during Oktoberfest. Grand National Sportsman, we tacked an extra 5 laps onto their feature. They had 20 to run on Saturday night. And what a run this was. Earlier this year, Brad Worthen took Greg Scheck toe-to-toe, door-to-door for about 14 and a half laps, trying to get that rookie's first feature win. Worthen did pick up a heat race win on the night. And you watch this battle here with him and Jamie Dummer. Now, the last time Worthen was in this position, he kind of bobbled and slipped up going into turn 3 against Scheck, and Scheck topped him. Here, Worthen said, I had a chance here out of turn 2, right about there. He thought he was going to try to go underneath, just didn't have enough room. Dummer pinches him off, and what a heated battle this was. And before the year's done, one more regular night of racing at La Crosse and Oktoberfest, Brad Worthen's about that far from getting his first feature race win of 2014 and as your current Rookie of the Year points leader. In this one, though, it was Jamie Dummer, followed by Brad Worthen. Nick Clements took 3rd, Brian Hesselberg 4th, Greg Scheck took 5th, and Steve Bachman took 6th. All four of your top 5 drivers are now battling each other in the points championship. Greg Scheck has an 11-point lead over Steve Bachman. He has a 25-point lead over Nick Clements and a 28-point lead over Jamie Dummer. Now, with one more regular points night besides Oktoberfest coming up, this one is far from being over with. When we come back, we're going to show you what happened to the Thunder Stocks this past Saturday night and a couple of big wrecks. Late models had 2 of them. Mid-Americans had 1 of them, and it kind of jumbled up the starting grid for the final features. That and a guest that was doing some critiquing of his own camera shooting there is going to be coming up next on 7 Rivers Racing.
Get ready for the Thunder!
The Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Your Friday night racing destination.
Every Friday night.
Super stocks, modified.
600 mods.
Pure stocks, street stocks, B-mods.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style. Tickets $12 for adults, $10 for seniors. Students free with an ID. And this year, kids 17 and under free with an adult admission. Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the Thunder!
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Highway 35 just north of Fountain City.
Some of the best moments in life happen at home. American Standard Heating and Air works smarter to make them all more comfortable.
For a limited time, save over $600 on select American Standard systems. Call now for details.
Holman American Legion Post 284. It's all about veterans' rights, quality of life. The Legion belongs to the veterans it serves. The American Legion supports Holman High School sports and local NASCAR racing. Did you know the Legion is open to the public? Stop by for a cold one. Tuesday lunch is a home-cooked meal. Supper is Buck Burgers. Thursday, it's tacos. They can be the place for your wedding reception or meeting. Holman American Legion. It's for veterans and for the people of Holman.
At Cousin Subs, we never settle for good. We always strive for better. Since 1972, we've been creating our signature Deli Fresh subs. We start with fresh bread that's baked every day. Then we freshly chop vegetables and slice the meat daily. It's how we do it and always have. Why? Because you deserve better.
We are back again. Semmelers Racing, KQEG TV. I'm Dan Deicher. Thanks for joining us on the program. And our recap of the La Crosse Speedway continues now as we go to the action track quarter mile at the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. Thunderstock Racing, and what was a 4-point battle for the points chase here just a couple of weeks ago is now turned into a 2-way battle. And we'll give you that summation here in a minute. 13 cars going 15 laps in the action track quarter mile. Took Andy Moore a couple of laps to finally get his way around some of the top dogs on the action track quarter mile. He and Cotton Candy Kid Kayla Steinoff had a spirited battle for about 7 laps, door to door. Moore finally cut to the inside about 3 laps before the shot right here, finally capitalized and got the race lead. That does put him third in points in the year, but I don't know if he's going to have enough to try to get himself a track championship, as the DQ from 2 weeks ago may kind of hurt a little bit. It was Andy Moore winning, Jordan Myers second, Kayla Steinhoff out of Rockland third. Jason Bolster took fourth, Tom Farr took fifth. Now the point standings with one regular night to go, and then Oktoberfest has Jason Bolster a 4-point lead over Jordan Myers, and that thing is going to be spirited, I can guarantee you that much. Well, we did have a couple of highlights to show here. We got our own little rec reel we've put together inside the KQEG TV Semmelers Racing Show this week. Let's go to the late model feature race number 1. And this right here is why we did not have 4 cars in the second feature. And this is why Steve Carlson had to run Todd Korsh's car in the second feature. Now, from what I understood, Sean Paff's motor gave out as he was coming out of turn 2. And we're going to slow this down here for you here in just a second, and you get a better shot of what was going on. It was out of turn 2. Sean Paff's motor just completely went. As the cars were checking up behind him, Cole Howland tried as much as he could to get out of that way. He took a slide shot from Sean Paff right there. You see the big ball of flame. And that knocked Cole Howland out now for the year, from what I heard from his team. And another tough break for Howland, who had some very consistent runs there. Sean Paff, not sure if he's going to be able to come back out and complete the year. Didn't see how much damage he had. Now, Steve Carlson, 66, was completely done. And Todd Korsh, who would have raced his last race ever at the Speedway, retiring after 19 years, gave his car up, let Carlson run because Carlson's still in the point standings and still leads Brad Powell by 19. Harley Jankowski, you saw, just skirted by that one as well to get himself into a top 5 finish in feature race number 1. Now, feature race number 2 was kind of interesting. We're going to show you that one here as turn 4 was the nemesis this time. The hard racing Scott Randall of Arlington, Texas, shoots in turn 4 a little bit too hard. He gets loose. He not only taps Randy Humpfeld once, but pinches him off into the wall. And Mike Kennecke, wow, this is the same spot in which he blew his car up here after blowing a tire during a practice session, and then get into a nasty wreck a couple of weeks later. Almost had the trifecta here, and he wore out a set of brake pads on this one. Scott Rand not able to complete. Randy Humpfeld had to sit back in the pits, and Kennecke did come back out and finish with a top 10. Should be okay to come back out in the next couple of weeks. Our third wreck was, well, this one wasn't even into turn 1 yet. The Mid-American Stock Car Series had just dropped the green flag on a 20-car field, and bang, the tap, the push. Brian Bach is the one pushing the 0-4 up. He's also into the wall. 4 cars right there. Even the 00 does get by. He gets the initial contact here. That's going to put him... you see that where that is, to be able to avoid the wreck, but 1 car slides into the wall. That was the 21. Brian Bach is the one who lifted up the 04. 04 did come back out with some front end damage later on. Bach's night was done. The 21 also came back out, and what a rough night that was for the Mid-American Stock Car Series, who did have a fantastic run at the Speedway. Let's go to the Mississippi Thunder Speedway, shall we, and give you the recap of last weekend's big money weekend. U.S. MTS Hunt for the Casey's Cup made a stop at the dirt track up in Fountain City. Rodney Sanders won the $3,000 40-lap U.S. MTS Casey's Hunt Cup Challenge. Kurt Myers has been to the track 7 times. This was his 5th feature race win, folks. He wins the Wissota Superstock feature. Corey Crapser won the USRA Ironman B-Mod Challenge feature. Jeremy Dahl won the MTS Pure Stocks in a nice run on Friday night. Johnny Severson won the Hornet/Flyers feature. He is a track record holder at MTS. Back in, I think it was 2004 or 5, won 11 straight features in the Hornets, and he's back again. That's his 2nd straight week of winning that class. To the Lightning Speedway we go. Zach Brown won the A Mini Mods, and Easton Wasman won the B Mini Mods. So again, another exciting night wrapped up at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway. Points Championship night is August 29th. And meanwhile, this Friday night, it's the Amsoil Race of Champions. This is a big qualifier race for Wissota drivers, the Super Stocks and the Street Stocks for their season-ending points battles. We've got the 6 o'clock A and B Mini Mods. Also Friday night, USRA Modifieds, Wissota Super Stocks, USRA B Mods, Wissota Street Stocks, 600 mods, and the Pure Stocks, and it's $20 a carload. As many people as I would recommend renting a van. As many people as you can jam pack into a car, $20 across the board for Mississippi Thunder and MississippiThunder.com. Well, the Hornets did come back out. People may be wondering, well, how did you do in your Hornet car this week? I've only ran 2 races this year. Dan Bailey, the other announcer at MTS, ran it once. And after about 20 years of conversations with my son, Ryan, we finally decided this was going to be the time that he finally had a chance to race. So we thought on the program today, we'd bring him in. Very proud to not only watch my son on the racetrack, but be able to call the race, but to do something I never thought I could imagine to do, and that's have him on a TV show. What's up, brother?
How's it going?
Tell you what, it was kind of interesting. What are these conversations? You and I were talking about this last week of you actually racing. When do you think that started?
That would probably go back to either Arizona or back to the Knoxville Speedway, Knoxville, Iowa. I always wanted to race a sprint car, one of the big, the mean, the powerful.
410s.
410s. Yeah. But it's, like you said, 20-some years, finally happened.
It was kind of interesting when I was announcing at the Knoxville Speedway. We had a conversation with Steve Kinzer and Mark Kinzer one time when they stole my golf cart and put a wing on and put some dirt tires on there. And you and I were walking home from the Knoxville Nationals that night. Of course, he was wheeling Kinzer's tires across the street. He said, you know, Dad, one of these days we're going to have R&D racing. And I said, what's that? He said, it's going to be Ryan and Dan racing. I said, man, that would be pretty cool. Now, this is back in, 1998, 99. So it's been about 15 plus years. And, never visioned how that would ever work and how the race announcing would go. And, of course, Ryan's been with me. My very first race I announced was in 1994. I did a Baja race in the desert of Arizona. And then kind of went on from there at some tracks in Nebraska and Pikes Peak International Raceway. And just some conversations we had throughout the years, and I never dreamed. Did you ever dream that this was going to happen, though?
No. Parts of me thought, yes, because of your background in racing, we will eventually do this. But to the full effect, no. Not until recently has it really set in that I am what you call a race car driver.
Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Phil, that's a lot of our viewers know him as Phil, about his first ever race this past Friday night. Was cut short twice, and hopefully we got some things figured out to make that not happen again. But got his first ever race in, and you talk about a rookie, we're going to get more inside. My son Ryan here when we come back next on Seven Rivers Racing.
We're here when the sun rises. And when the bread rises too. And we're here slicing a deli fresh every day. And every morning, we're chopping it all up. Why do we put so much effort into making it fresh? Because you deserve better.
Holman American Legion Post 284. It's all about veterans' rights, quality of life. The Legion belongs to the veterans it serves. The American Legion supports Holman High School sports and local NASCAR racing. Did you know the Legion is open to the public? Stop by for a cold one. Tuesday lunch is a home-cooked meal. Supper is Buck Burgers. Thursday, it's tacos. They can be the place for your wedding reception or meeting. Holman American Legion. It's for veterans and for the people of Holman.
Some of the best moments in life happen at home. American Standard Heating and Air works smarter to make them all more comfortable.
For a limited time, save over $600 on select American Standard systems. Call now for details.
Get ready for the Thunder.
The Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Your Friday night racing destination.
Every Friday night.
Super stocks, modified,
600 mods.
pure stocks, street stocks, B-mods.
It's racing excitement, dirt track style. Tickets $12 for adults, $10 for seniors. Students free with an ID. And this year, kids 17 and under free with an adult admission. Friday night racing starts at 7.
Bring on the Thunder.
Dirt track style at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway.
Highway 35 just north of Fountain City.
We're back one more time. Seven Rivers Racing, KQEG TV. Thanks for joining us again. Fourth year on the award-winning program. I'm Dan Deicher. Thought we would do something kind of different today, and we did bring a race car driver in. We are back at the Mississippi Thunder Speedway again, talking about the 1/3 mile dirt track. But this past Friday night was a father's dream, I guess you could say, when you do what I do, and 20 years in broadcasting and so many years in race announcing, that my son Ryan finally got a chance to race a car. And it wasn't a media stunt thing. It wasn't just a 2 or 3 lap thing. He was in it all the way around in the Midwest Poker League Flyers. And again, I got to thank John Radke and R&R Racing. Pretty much just gave me the car to start the season with. This kind of a joke. It's the 7D7 announcer bouncer that Dan Bailey and I were just going to run back and forth for 4 races. I ended up really getting competitive in the points standings, and I told Ryan, I'm like, well, I got one more race to go. What do you think? And what was your reaction when what was it, about 3 weeks ago, I said, you want to race the last race?
It was, let's do it. Like you said earlier, we wanted to do this for 20 some odd years, so we did it.
So your overall impressions, I mean, you were about to pee yourself when you were in pits. You know, don't lie now. Look in that camera and tell everybody, what was it like when you're getting strapped in and you got a helmet on, the fire suit on, you got the big security belts on?
For doing it for the first time ever, it's a real experience, because usually you're used to the strapping in, the helmet on, getting your breathing ready, not fogging up the glasses. I didn't have that. It was here you go, here's how you put your belt on, and gas is on the right.
And it was, you know, I remember it was like, this was my first year racing as well. I mean, I did a couple of media things in the past, but I'd never actually been in a race as I was this year. You got the gloves on, the palms are sweaty. I was sweating like you wouldn't believe outside my helmet. Was your heart just about ready to bust through the belts when you're sitting in the chute for the first time?
I'm glad I had the belts on, or else we'd had a problem.
Ryan Deicher, my son, joining me on the program. First ever. It's kind of a neat first time he's ever raced, first time I've ever raced, something we've talked about doing for 20 years and just never had the opportunity to do it. So you put your first couple laps down on the dirt track in the Hornet car. What are you thinking as you're doing those first couple laps? Because you were in an 8-car heat race to start.
To begin with, it was more, okay, here's what I'm doing, don't bump anybody, don't drive my line. But after that first couple laps, it's all about racing. You have one objective, and that's finish the race.
And I was really surprised, too, because after 2 laps in, as Dan Bailey and I were calling the race, I couldn't believe how, and you did this so much better than I did my first heat race out, is you've stuck your foot down there, you were a bottom feeder, you're riding the inside part of the track, you were staying out of people's way, but you were building confidence about halfway through, then the tire blew.
Well, I do want to thank John Radke for the moral boost, telling me stay down low and keep her going no matter what. And that's about it. Even till that tire blew, I kept going, attempted to drive the tires off.
And then Larry Hullitz, longtime Hornet driver, John helped you out down in the pits and got you set for the feature.
Yeah, both of them really got me going. Any question I ever had in the world, I could have just asked one of the two, and they would have helped me out.
So you get into the feature, and this was a 23-car feature, a little bit different from 8. Was your mindset a little bit different that time?
Especially right out of the chute, when I see, instead of a couple cars ahead of me, I see all of the cars ahead of me. The butterflies were out by then. It was mostly, here we go, big cars, keep her in one piece.
And of course, these are, you're talking about Sorensen, a track champion, a record holder. You're talking the Turtlots and the Thompsons. You're talking about the Bornitzes that are so fast. As you're running the feature race, what were some of the goals that you're setting for yourself?
For myself, I wanted, again, to finish, because it was my first time ever doing it. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, that it is possible. Also, I just wanted to attempt to stay ahead of a few people. Try to run with the pack, try not to get lapped again like I was the first time, And I was doing that for a while until the tire decided to go on me.
Of course, he blew the front tire out in the heat race and blew the other front tire out in the feature. But we think we have that figured out because one of the problems I have at the dirt track is turns 3 and 4. It's like racing in and out of a box. And if you just don't pick a nice line to come in and be able to drift through the corner and then get on it when you're coming out of 4, I think you and I had the identical problem.
Yeah, it's especially from the heat to the feature as the track tended to change. Getting used to swinging your rear end into it. Again with the bottom feeding, because usually when you want it tighter so you could just go right around, but the track was just not letting it happen.
And of course, you were the first one out after the track preparations that began for the big USMTS show. So it was funny. You get done with both races, and you were like a kid in a candy store at 6 years old when you came up on the booth, and I said, "Well, what'd you think? You want to do it again?"
Oh, of course I do, and I can't wait for Fall Fest.
Think you're going to learn anything between now and then?
I think I'll learn more than I did just jumping into the car.
Now, of course, John Radke and Larry Hullett's help with the setup as well. Something we'll have to start learning because I don't know sway, bars, and camber, and I know how to explain it when I'm announcing. But when you're actually in the car, it's a totally different story. Give us your overall synopsis of running on dirt. What did you think? Was it as easy? I mean, you watch it on TV. You watch sprint cars. And we watch USMTS, we watch modifieds all the time, and they make it look simple. They slide into the corner, down the front straightaway, slide into the corner, down the back straightaway. Not as easy as what you see on TV.
No, it was just like right after my race, I got a time to watch the Ironman Challenge, and during that, I would see how they would come into the corners, kind of like I wanted to, but with the little lack of experience I had, I wasn't able to go as fast as they were. But I think watching them and with my experience, your experience, as well as Larry and John, I think coming into the next event, we'll definitely be able to do something like that.
And hopefully we're going to get some practice times down as too. Again, Fall Fest at MTS is the 10th and 11th. Hornets will be running. Expect 40 or 50 of them. It should be a good-sized crowd. I did want to mention also real quickly, the Oktoberfest race weekend schedule is now out at the La Crosse Fairgrounds Speedway. Make sure you check out OktoberfestRaceWeekend.com. All 4 days of racing are posted. And this week's schedule, it's Bucknet at the Speedway, Late Model Sportsman, Thunderstocks, Outlaws, and the last end of racing for Street Stocks as their point championship is coming up on August 30th. Again, Buck Night. Check it out, LaCrosseSpeedway.com. I tell you what, a very proud moment. My son's been everywhere with me in broadcasting, been everywhere with me in every racetrack I've ever worked at, and it was one of the proudest moments I've ever had, being able to not only get my son in a race car finally, but see him on the scoring sheet starting on the inside of row 4 for a heat race. And it was a very monumental moment in my life, and I hope it was for yours as well.
Oh, yeah. It's always something that I will remember because we were talking about it again for 20 years, wanting to do this one very thing, and that's get me into a race car, and we did it, and we're going to continue it.
Race T-shirts and hats might be in the works, too, for next year.
Hey, that works for me.
I want to thank Features and Holman for sponsoring the car. I want to thank Speedy Graphics and Kim Eckelberg. She did up the car this year. Radke Racing, R&R Racing for helping us out as well. And theglasscarver.com and J&L Collectibles for helping sponsor the 7D7. We're going to change the number next year?
Hey, that's up to you, owner.
Might have to change the number next year since he'll be running it and I won't be. That's going to do it for the program. Check us out on YouTube. We have our own 7 Rivers Racing channel. Also, coming up this Saturday, check out AM 580 WKTY. I've got the Race Report show coming from 1 until 2. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you at a local racetrack. I'm Dan Deicher. This is 7 Rivers Racing.